If you're not leveraging multi-channel outbound in 2026, then you're definitely leaving a ton of money on the table. In this video, we're going to go through a case study that has generated 23 positive replies from a tiny list size in the last 8 days. And we're going to go in depth on how to set up multi-channel campaigns via cold email and LinkedIn. The tools we're going to be using are SmartLead, HeyReach, Clay, and Make.com. So this is going to be a very in-depth video, but you're going to get a ton of value out of it. And if you're thinking about having someone set up a multi-channel campaign for your business, then feel free to reach out to me, book a time using the link in the calendar, and let's see if there's a fit for us to work together. With all that said, let's dive in. So here is this multi-channel campaign that has been running for the last 8 days. So it started last week on Monday. Today is Wednesday. So let's take a look at the campaign stats. So 248 connections were sent. We had a connection acceptance rate of 43.5%, which is really high. And the number of messages sent to those connections so far has been 84. Of those, we received 35 replies, which is a 41.7% reply rate, very, very high. The really key thing here is that from those 248 connection requests that have been sent, we have had 8 positive replies so far. We're getting 1 positive reply for every 31 connection requests sent, which is phenomenal and very scalable. And one of the things that I love about HeyReach is that you can add multiple LinkedIn profiles to one HeyReach account and use multiple profiles in one campaign to scale horizontally and be able to send a lot more volume. If we look at the SmartLead campaign, which is sending cold email, we've contacted 604 leads in total. Of those, 30 have replied, which is roughly a 5% reply rate, which is very good. And of those 30, 15 have been positive replies, which is a 50% positive reply rate, which is very high. That means we're getting 1 positive reply for every 40. But if you think about, if we were to just leverage one of these channels instead of both of them, we would have left a ton of money on the table. Let's look at why you want to be using LinkedIn for outbound. What are the benefits of it? You don't have any email deliverability issues. You're not going to have mailboxes that just cannot land in the inbox. Whatever you send to somebody who's accepted your connection request is going to land in their LinkedIn inbox. And if they check their LinkedIn messages, they will see your message at some point. You get more freedom of speech. So with cold email, you have to be really careful about avoiding spam trigger words that get flagged by ASPs and cause your emails to get sent to spam or just not get delivered at all. You don't really have that issue with LinkedIn. You can say things much more clearly than you can on email, especially if you're in a specific niche such as financial services. Profile views and post engagement create familiarity before you pitch. So let's just go over to a HeyReach campaign right now. The campaign starts, and if that person is already a connection, we just end the campaign immediately because we don't want to reach out to existing connections. But if they're not a connection, we will view their profile. Then 3 hours later, we'll like one of their posts. And then another 3 hours later, we'll send a connection request. If they do accept your connection request, then 1 day later, we'll send the first message. Then 3 days later, we'll send the second message. And then 1 day after that, if they still have not replied, we have this new feature in HeyReach that allows us to find their email address. And if the email address is found, then we can add them to an email sequencer. You can add them currently to SmartLead as well as instantly. In this case, I'm adding them to a SmartLead campaign. Content amplification. This is another one. So your posts reach connections organically, providing free touch points between outreach sequences. And then finally, visual credibility. So people are going to see your profile, recommendations and endorsements that you've received, and your activity feed in terms of your comments, your posts. And this is going to help you to establish authority and trust before you even message them. Now, what is the argument for cold email? Well, firstly, you don't have any scaling limitations that you do have on LinkedIn. You can set up as many mailboxes as you want. Some executives prefer email for business communication over any social platform, even if it is LinkedIn. But these are the reasons why you might consider multi-channel. So firstly, you become more top of mind for them. Secondly is channel preference coverage. So some prospects never check LinkedIn. Others ignore email, but you hit both. Then there's the reinforcement effect. So seeing a message in multiple places signals legitimacy and persistence without seeming desperate in one channel. Then there's channel diversification. So if one channel gets restricted, your pipeline doesn't completely collapse. And then there's the lower frequency per channels, 3 LinkedIn messages and 3 emails over a 2-week period. That feels acceptable. Whereas if you sent 6 emails in that period or 6 LinkedIn messages, that would seem pretty spammy, most likely get you blocked. So the real power is that multi-channel multiplies your results. It's not just additive. Each channel makes the other channels work more effectively. Here's how we can thread multi-channel across email and LinkedIn. So if you start with a HeyReach sequence or a LinkedIn sequence, and then you receive no reply from that lead, you can add them to a SmartLead sequence for cold email. On the other hand, if you start with a SmartLead sequence and you get no reply, you can add them into a HeyReach sequence. Now, just one point on this is that this HeyReach sequence here should never be the same HeyReach sequence that is here. The reason for that is at the end of this sequence, if we did not get a reply from them, we're going to find their email, and if an email is found or exists, they're going to get added to a SmartLead campaign. And if you're just using one SmartLead campaign and one HeyReach campaign for both of these, and they're going to keep adding the lead from one channel to the next over and over again, you're going to create an infinite loop effect, which could be highly detrimental to your campaign success and to your reputation. So don't do that. In other words, this should be HeyReach sequence 1 and call it something like campaign name to email. And then this one is coming from email, so call it campaign name from email. And the same goes for the SmartLead sequences. So email sequence going to LinkedIn, and this would be email sequence coming from LinkedIn. So you need to differentiate them and have slightly different settings in each of these campaigns to avoid any infinite loop situations. Then the third type of situation is where you start with email and you receive a positive reply, and then what you can do is send them a connection request on LinkedIn. And in this case, you might want to just send them a connection request and nothing else, just to be connected with them on LinkedIn so that they've raised their hand over email. Then you send them a connection request automatically on LinkedIn. And now you have 2 channels in order to reach them and get to know them more and build familiarity so that they can see your LinkedIn profile and feel more familiar and feel more trust towards you. So that is one option that you could do. The other option is if you receive a positive reply on LinkedIn, first of all, then you could send them an email, and that email might just say something like, hey, we connected on LinkedIn, just wanted to reach out and say hi over here on email as well. But personally, I wouldn't do that because I would use that email to write something manually in most cases to make it super personalized to whatever they've replied back to me and the context of the situation and what they do, in order to escalate them to the next step, which would be to book in a meeting with them ideally. That is how we thread multi-channel across email and LinkedIn. We can get much more advanced than that, and I'm going to cover some of that towards the end of this video. We're now going to look at multi-channel messaging. You do not want to send the same message on the second channel that you sent on the first channel. Now, I know if somebody didn't reply to you, you may assume that they just didn't read your email or they didn't see your LinkedIn message, but in many cases they did see that message or they did read that email, and by sending them the same message again on the second channel just looks kind of spammy, looks kind of automated, and it hurts your chances that they're going to respond positively. So you want to add context in when you're reaching out to them on the second channel, whether that is by LinkedIn or by email. So for example, let's imagine that you started with an email sequence, you got no reply, so you send them to a LinkedIn campaign. Then the messaging you want to say in that LinkedIn campaign is going to be something like, hey, I reached out to you via email, wanted to get in touch with you here. If you started off with a LinkedIn campaign and you didn't get any reply by the end of that campaign, then you can send them over to an email campaign. And the context or the messaging you might want to use there is something like, I reached out to you on LinkedIn, thought email would be easier. And then there's the case where you start with an email, you get a positive reply, and then you send a connection request on LinkedIn. So with that, hey, we're in touch over email, just wanted to connect here as well. I don't know about you guys, but I have not had too much success being able to land in Microsoft mailboxes, despite numerous attempts to do so over the last 6 months or so. Generally these days, I just don't bother with it because my thought process on that is if you have a mailbox that can send up to 20 or 25 emails per day, then why would you waste that sending it to Microsoft recipients who might have like a 1% or a 1.5% reply rate when you could send it to Google and other SMTP recipients who might give you like a 3 to 5% reply rate typically if you're doing well. So I just think it's better to use that limited volume per mailbox for recipients who are on email service providers who are more likely to receive your message, read it, and reply to it. So what I'm doing here is I look up the MX record of any domain that I'm trying to reach out to. SMTP, we have Google, we have Microsoft. Those are the three main ones. Now, we also have security email gateways. So I generally avoid sending emails to security email gateways. In some cases I do. If it's necessary for a client, then we will allocate a batch of mailboxes specifically for that purpose, and we will reach out to them. But in many cases, those mailboxes will start to have deliverability issues within 2 or 3 weeks. I'm adding people to a SmartLead campaign only if we have a valid email address that is on Google or SMTP that is not on a security email gateway. And if their domain is on Microsoft, then I just don't even bother trying to find their email address. That way I save a lot of credits in my email finding and validation tools. And the people that go into an email campaign are just the people who are most likely to respond or see my email in the first place. So that is the first step. We add those people to a SmartLead campaign. And then because LinkedIn Outbound campaigns have a limited sending volume, you can only send a certain number of connection requests and messages per day. What we do is if that lead is on a domain that is on Microsoft or a security email gateway, and we just didn't bother to find their email address, we'll use those people's LinkedIn profiles and add them to a LinkedIn campaign, because this way we can maximize the chances that our email campaigns using SmartLead are going to get replies. And then for everyone else where they're unlikely to even see our emails because they're on Microsoft or a security gateway, we'll put them in a HeyReach campaign so that we still have a high chance of reaching out to them and for them to actually see our connection request, see our message, and respond and become a client for us. We have some run conditions in this SmartLead campaign to make sure that only leads that have a valid email address get added, and those email addresses will be SMTP or Google and not security email gateways. And then if they're anything else, they go into a HeyReach campaign using a run condition. In SmartLead, if you go to down here, go to Smart Agents, choose any of these templates, or even just describe your own AI agent that you would like SmartLead to build, and it will build that for you in a matter of minutes. So it's a really cool feature that they've added. But if you click on View All and then search for HeyReach, you'll see a couple of pre-made AI agents that you can use right now. So the first one is push a replied lead to a HeyReach campaign. Now, I didn't use this template because what if I get a negative reply like do not contact me? Then I don't probably want to contact them on LinkedIn as well. So the only one that I would consider using is this push an interested lead to a HeyReach campaign. I did set this up, and for whatever reason, it just didn't work. It wasn't sending people over to that HeyReach campaign. Maybe I configured it wrong. I don't know. I don't really care because all I wanted to do was just get it working as quickly as possible. The workaround that I used for this, which I think actually works better, is I have this very simple make automation where we have a webhook here. What this webhook is doing is it is listening for positive replies that come in SmartLead. So in SmartLead, you can set up an automation that says if a certain lead category was auto-applied to this lead, then it should trigger the webhook to fire. So to do that, if we go to SmartLead, and if we click on here at the top and go to settings, and then go to, let's see, webhook, add a webhook, give it a name, paste in the webhook from your automation, copy that webhook URL, paste it into the webhook URL field here. Up to you whether you want this on account level, client level, or campaign level. But then the event you want to choose is lead category updated. And the lead categories that you want to choose are going to be the positive ones. So information request, interested, meeting request, pricing request, and then add. So now anytime a reply comes in and the AI in SmartLead auto categorizes the reply as one of those four, it's going to fire the webhook. When this fires, we get an email notification of a positive reply, we get a Slack notification, and the lead gets added to a Google Sheet. You could also add the lead data to your CRM if you want to do that. And as you see on the end here, what we're doing is we have a filter applied here that just says, has a LinkedIn profile. So if the data from the webhook shows that the LinkedIn profile field contains linkedin.com/in, they get added to a HeyReach campaign. We're sending those people into a dedicated HeyReach campaign that literally just sends them a connection request, and that's it. We don't want to start sending them automated messages, because if we're getting deep into a conversation back and forth with that lead and they're interested, we want to reply manually to them on LinkedIn as well to give more context and convert them into a meeting, ideally. One thing that was missing from the Smart Agent, the template that was missing for me, was just what if they get to the end of the SmartLead campaign and they have not replied. So if we type HeyReach again, you'll see that it has push replied lead to the HeyReach campaign, or push an interested lead to the HeyReach campaign. But what I wanted to do was push a completed lead that didn't reply to the HeyReach campaign from SmartLead. So I built an AI agent using the AI agent builder here. For some reason, it just didn't work for me, so I just set it up in Clay, and I'm going to show you how this works. So I explained how we use Clay to determine whether we put a lead into SmartLead or HeyReach based on their email address, ESP provider. But what we have here is a way to automate the process of adding completed leads from SmartLead who never replied into a HeyReach campaign. And the way it works is we can look up a lead in a campaign. We can look up a lead status in a campaign. So what I'm doing is I'm using look up the SmartLead lead status. So this runs every single day. If you click on this cog icon in the bottom right, then you can choose to rerun specific columns on a schedule. So we've activated that, and we're running 3 columns on a daily schedule. And the first column is look up the lead status. So you can see for the first one, it says in progress. From there, we add another action step in Clay that is look up the lead in the campaign. So what this is doing is it's looking up the lead to see if they have a lead category ID, such as interested, not interested, meeting request, do not contact, wrong person, out of office. If they have a lead category ID, that means that they replied to your email. We are adding people to the HeyReach campaign from SmartLead if the lead status equals completed and if the lead category has no values. As long as you have these 3 columns that I just showed you, look up SmartLead lead status, look up lead in campaign, and then add to HeyReach from SmartLead campaign. As long as those 3 daily schedule, then you will automate the process of adding completed non-replied leads into your HeyReach campaign from SmartLead. So that's the way that I'm doing it. Advanced multi-channel strategies. So there's a couple of things that you can do here. The first thing is, in addition to LinkedIn and email, you could also add phone. So the way that this would work is when you receive a positive reply via LinkedIn or via email, then you could generate that lead's mobile phone number and send their phone number to your sales team, your SDRs. This can all be fully automated. So one thing you could do is have a dedicated Clay table if you're using Clay, where the source of that table is a webhook, and it just listens for new data. So whenever we get a positive reply in SmartLead or HeyReach, we could send the data to that webhook URL in Clay. Clay would receive the lead data, and in that Clay table, all you need to have is a mobile phone number waterfall enrichment. And when a phone number is found, then it just gets sent to the SDR team. You could potentially add in WhatsApp or text message on top of that if you really want to. And then the second advanced multi-channel strategy is more of an interwoven multi-channel. Step 1, send a connection request. If they accept it, send the first message on LinkedIn. If they did not reply to that LinkedIn message, then send them the first email. And then if they didn't reply to that first email, send a second message on LinkedIn. And then if they didn't reply to that, then send a second email. The advantage of this is that the frequency per channel is less frequent, so it's less likely to be annoying for them. And also, if one channel doesn't work at the start, just try the other channel right away, because there's a chance that they just don't look at their LinkedIn messages that often. Ultimately, what I'm really happy to see is that what's happened over the last 7 days is we've had 8 positive replies from just 248 connection requests. And then on top of that, 1 reply for every 40 leads contacted via email. So those are both really strong. But if we had just relied on one channel and not the other, then we might not have such high numbers on the one channel. We've had 15 positive replies on email, 8 positive replies on LinkedIn, and we can start scaling this up now. So if you would like us to set up a campaign like this and leverage multi-channel for your business, click the link in the description and let's see if there's a fit for us to work together.